I love one-liners, and the one-liner that reminds me of that question is the fastest way to get to the level you want to go is to go slow, because if you go too fast, the horse will slow you down for you. So, and he will slow you down somehow by losing his confidence or any other number of things. Okay, next question right here.
For your amateur students, how do you break down their week of training with dressage and jumping? Do you go back and forth every day, or do you all have different schedules?
I like to keep, especially in reference to like adult amateurs or people with one horse, it's so important to get the practice in that Ollie was talking about in terms of the number of jumps a person jumps, the better they're going to be. And that's a challenge within the soundness spacing of a horse. So I try to encourage a lot of my adult amateurs to, whether they're in their dressage saddle or their jump saddle, to always have some sort of rails or poles on the ground or some sort of obstacle so that they can practice that sense of timing in all different seats, whether it's a dressage seat or a half seat. I also encourage them in their flat work, one of their flat work days during the week, to do it in their jump saddle with the short stirrups so that they can develop the same types of communication with their horse and their gaits in that different seat, because I think body memory is so important. So in that 5-day work week of most adult amateur horses, where they might have the time and maybe have 2 days off, they're going to have one serious jump school, and I tend to alternate back and forth between one week might be more of a show jumping school, the next week might be a cross-country school, but there'll be another day, maybe with rails or footwork exercises and pulls on the ground and adjusting strides, practicing angles, practicing an entire course with rails on the ground where you're not actually taking that out of the horse and you're spending a fair bit of time doing the dressage between the fences. And I do think that's very important. I don't like to have people sit in a dressage saddle and drill endlessly in the 20x40 sandbox. I like them to get out on the trails and practice a little leg yielding, shouldering, transitions out and away, and that has just as much benefit whether you're going around your paddock in a 10-acre facility or whether you're going in the local park and doing the same thing. You can practice all the transitions and make such a big difference in your horse and your partnership with your horse. So keeping that variety, I think, is really important.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions? I would like to learn how to ride more with my leg, less with the hand. So
Don't use your hands.
I know. Anything?
Yeah, when you figure it out, will you let us all up here now?
You know, you can do simple little exercises like having the crop under your thumb, you know, riding so you can't be moving and pulling. I mean, that's one simple exercise to work on. You can do another one.
How brave are you? A funny little story. One of my best friends is a Grand Prix jumper rider. And he drove into his farm one day. He says, "Junior, come over here. I want you to watch this." I walk in. There's a round pen and 2 round pens. Let's shoot around the middle. And he's in there. He's got a step pole in front of 2 jumps. So there's 2 jumps on either side of this round pen. And I see this guy riding. There's my friend with no hat, no helmet. And the jumps are up at the top of the pen with the metal gate. 2 fences, 2 oxers. And he's going around with no bridle and jumping these things. And by the way, he's got no hat on. And he comes, he jumps, and he's going around, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta try this." And he didn't stop the horse, and all of a sudden it came out completely wrong. And he flies out and over the pen and on the ground. And I said, "That worked well for you." I said, "If you're gonna do something this stupid, at least put a hat on." He said, "If you wear a hat, then you're gonna expect to fall off." So there you go.
How to follow that? Is it mainly in the flat work front, or?
No, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm to the point where if I plant my hands and just make them stay there, but then it's harder to steer, of course. So I have to just learn how to, you know, do it more.
Amy's got something for you.
Actually, about a year ago, I was sitting at Kentucky, and I was watching and people in the warm-up ring, and noticing that, you know, every time William Foxpit comes out, he rides his horse with a neck strap on. And generally speaking, uses the neck strap to stop a horse before he uses the bit. And I was like, huh, you know, that's something to think about. And I have an adult amateur at home who is a surgeon, so when she falls off and hurts herself and breaks bones, it's really hard for her to do her job. And so I was like, you know, I wonder how this would work. And so put on a neck strap. All of a sudden, she could hold herself in a 2-point position. All of a sudden, she could hold herself in the tack over, an oxer a foot high without using her hands. She could pull up in a line without using the bit by just using the neck strap. So then we started actually using the neck strap on the flat and applying the same principles to using a neck strap first before you think of using your hands. And it's made, for this particular person, a huge difference in the way she thinks about, because instead of just feeling fast and she wants to stop, because that's our natural instinct, there's one more step that she thinks about to stop, which is she feels fast, now she pulls on the neck strap first, and then she uses her hands. And so it's been an interesting thing watching, and actually now pretty much all my riders ride with neck straps.
A lot of these, we have to speak in such generalities up here because we haven't seen the situation. It almost sounds like a marriage. He thinks you're going to pull on him, so he gets antsy and strong, and then you have to pull on him because you have loss of control. And so I think by any means that you can, to be able to have a relationship with his mouth, to me it sounds like the first step is to have contact, to learn how to have contact that's not asking anything, it's just a part of his mouth. And then from there we then learn how to use the reins in conjunction with your legs. So everything you ask the horse to do is forward. But sounds to me like there's steps in your understanding that need to be rethought with your coach or however you do it, to take those steps back to make sure there's no steps missing in either your training or your horse's training in acceptance of the aids.